Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Mind the Moment's Tuesday morning gathering, brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. This is a place, as you know, that we invite experienced mindfulness instructors to speak with us about what mindfulness means to them and to discuss as a community how we can incorporate these practices into our daily lives. I'm Suzanne Rowe Palacino, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here with Kell Julliard. He's a longtime mindfulness instructor and meditator as well. So happy to have you here with us, Kell.
Thank you, Suzanne. Lovely to be with you and with everybody who's joined.
Yes, it looks like we have a wonderful crowd as we usually have this morning. So as we do, we will start out with a question for the group. Then Kell will lead guided practice, share some thoughts with us. And then after that, we'll have time for questions and some chat. And so if you can go to the bottom of the screen, click on the chat, and you have an opportunity to click on the drop-down menu where the blue area is, and click on everyone, and then you can see everyone's comments come in real time. So you have the option to send a comment just to us or to the whole group, whatever you feel most comfortable with. So, Kell, what would we like to start out with this morning?
Well, in line with our monthly theme this month of food art, I thought it would be fun to hear what is the most colorful food that you have eaten recently. And don't stress out about it. I mean, just whatever comes to mind is fine, but any food that had a color that was pleasing and vivid and that you liked.
All right, type away in the chat. Butternut squash, one of my favorites. Ooh, Greek pasta salad, spinach, tomatoes, Kalamata olives. Wow. I had a tomato that was heirloom tomato that was green and red. It was gorgeous. So that's what comes to mind for me. Indelicata squash. I'm not familiar with that. Sounds interesting. Papaya spinach. Pumpkin dip. Homemade pasta sauce, lots of veggies. Japanese gourd that was key lime color. I love this question, Kell. This is really fascinating. Salad with red, orange, and yellow peppers and olives. And sweet potato. Yeah, 'tis the season for lovely colors, both outside and on in our kitchens.
So I've got one to share. I was taking firewood over to stack it on the firewood place, and this little bit of red caught my eye on the ground, which I thought, of course, was a piece of trash that had blown over, but it was a wild strawberry, vividly red, just hiding under this bright green strawberry leaf. And so I took it in and washed it off and ate it, and it was delicious.
Wow. That's interesting. The timing of that, it's our season kind of was pushed a little forward this year, so maybe that's why it's still hanging on.
I see Tammy mentioned red velvet cake, and I want to share a story about red velvet cake. I used to have a birthday party in February every year to celebrate Mozart and Virginia Woolf's birthday. And the very first one, I made a red velvet cake, and no one at that party knew what it was. So when I cut into it and lifted the piece of cake up, there was a gasp throughout the room as everyone saw the deep red color of the cake. It's fun.
Sounds lovely and delicious.
And Mozart and Virginia Woolf, you can't go wrong with those two. Their birthdays are 2 days apart, I think.
That's a fun celebration. All right, and one more, omelet with red and green peppers. Sounds good. And you've got our senses peaked at this point, Kell. Okay, well, we can go ahead with the rest of the, however you want to move forward.
Okay, so in line with this theme of food art and color, I thought we would actually do some meditating with taste and smell. But I'm going to approach this in actually quite a different way from usual and that we're not going to be eating anything or smelling anything in particular. So I'm not going to say much more because what we're really going to work with is the silence of the senses rather than the activity of the senses. So just take a moment to get settled in, to check in with your body, check in with your posture. Make sure you've got a relaxed yet upright way of sitting. You can also be lying down or standing. Those are the three classic meditation postures. As long as your spine is aligned in a comfortable and relaxed way, you're good. And just take a moment to arrive to notice your breathing, maybe the weight of the body on the chair, whatever helps you ground and come present. And now bring awareness to hearing, to sound. You can do this with eyes open or eyes closed, whatever is most comfortable for you. And notice if there are gaps between the sounds where there's silence. You still know you're listening, but instead of being aware of any sounds, you're aware of the silence itself as an experience of listening, of knowing, just simply knowing that you're listening. Perhaps you're in a place where there are sounds coming from outside, but you could be aware that the room that you're in is silent, that there's no sound within the room. Now, if your eyes are closed, try opening them for a moment. Just knowing that you're seeing all of the shapes and colors around you. You can select a shape or a color and just know that you're seeing that shape or that color. And now gently let the eyes close, experiencing a kind of visual silence. There's some pattern or variation when we have our eyes closed, unless we're in total darkness. Even then, there's often some random firing of the neurons in our eyes. But compared to eyes open, it's like an experience of visual silence or darkness. Feel free to open your eyes again if that's more comfortable for you. But now let's bring our awareness to the sense of smell. Simply notice, is there a fragrance in the room that you're in, however subtle? Just noticing the sense of smell. Or is it silent? No food present, nothing with an aroma. And just notice how you can bring your awareness to smell, even without a smell being present. And perhaps you notice that there's a stillness, a peacefulness that accompanies this silence. Now let your awareness move to the sense of taste. Again, noticing, is there any subtle experience of taste going on? Or is our sense of taste silent in this moment? You're aware that you can taste, but there's no taste present. You might let your awareness roam a little bit, noticing the feeling of your lips, the sensation of your tongue in your mouth. And often our tongues are moving just a little bit. So noticing the shift of the texture as the tongue touches teeth, the roof of the mouth, the knowing that the tongue is moving. And just the random sensations coming from the inside of our mouths. No food to experience there. So there's a sense of stillness and peacefulness. Silence of the sense of taste. And now we'll begin to work with the imagination a little bit. Imagine that you're picking up a lemon with one hand, holding it in your two hands, feeling the bumpiness of the texture. It's cool to the touch. Imagining the weight of that lemon in your hand. And now raising the lemon in your imagination to your nose and remembering the smell as you inhale of what a lemon smells like. And now gently opening your mouth and biting through the rind of the lemon until you experience the tart juice of the lemon in your mouth. And noticing, are there any changes in the sensations of your mouth, of your face, as you imagine vividly that experience of biting into the lemon? Now letting that imagination go and just letting the mind rest in what we call open awareness, not blocking any thought or feeling or sense impression, but mostly simply knowing you're aware and alive in this moment, recognizing awareness itself. If your eyes are open, that's great. If they're closed, just gently let them open, still resting in open awareness. Just knowing you're here, present, and alive. Okay.
Thank you, Cal. That was a great, really unique practice.
Yeah, I've never actually led a meditation quite like that before, but the that food art theme of the month inspired me to think outside the box a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be very interested to see in the chat what folks' experience of that meditation was, how you liked it, what it was like to experience kind of silence of the different senses. Any insights or experiences you'd like to share?
I can start. What I really connected with was when you were talking about sounds and sounds, all sounds, and I was noticing there's a little street traffic on my street. There wasn't a lot of silence, but then you mentioned about, what about the silence within the room, which totally changed my perspective of the term silence, because it could have different levels. And it was very poignant for me. So I really liked that.
Yeah, I'm really interested in Tawny's comment. And I love your comment, Tawny. It's great that Tawny could vividly imagine biting the rind, but thinking that part's not for eating, not wanting to do it. So it's so interesting that even in our imagination, we have reactions of being attracted or pulling away from an experience. So yeah, so thanks. It's just to experience that, I think, is a wonderful thing. So Tani, I'm hoping that wasn't too distressing for you.
Yeah, folks are, Kristen mentioning that brought her to the present moment and made it made her able to tune in. I thought I've read somewhere, and don't quote me on this, but that when we're engaged in our senses, we are always in the present moment, which really makes a lot of sense. So it's a good way to get us, especially during meditation, to step away from that to-do list that Kristen has mentioned.
Yeah, I'm loving all of these comments. That just amazing how our minds work. How the lemon sensation made Tammy's eyes water, which, I was just astounded the first time I had this visualization of a lemon, how my body reacted to that. Just the way I'm thinking has such a profound effect on the way I live, the way we all live. And what Colleen said about enjoying finding silence between the sounds. Let's see. Janice was mentioning focusing on senses quieted my mind and thoughts more than I expected. There's actually a whole meditation in the tradition that I work with, the Joy of Living program with Yongey Minya Rinpoche, of working with the stillness of mind, which is meditating on the senses, and then awareness of the moving of mind, which is meditating on thoughts and emotions, and how meditating with the senses does have an inherent stillness about it. So I'm so happy that Janice tuned into that and experienced that kind of spontaneously.
Yes, yeah. And like you said, finding the silence between the sounds was really, you really had to concentrate on that, which is an interesting focus.
I like what Carmen and Singham have said about the focus on the senses, how we can be mindful anywhere, anytime, and that isolating the senses, it made that sense more vivid, even when there was nothing going on in it. So I thought that's pretty cool to read those insights.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this tradition that you were mentioning?
In that particular meditation, or the Joy of Living
just that
program?
You had worked with that particular Rinpoche.
Right. So Yongey Minya Rinpoche is my main teacher. He came out of a very rigorous traditional Tibetan Buddhist training. But because his father was an eminent teacher of meditation, neuroscientists would come to visit in this retreat in Nepal. So even from a very young age of 8 or 9, Minya Rinpoche was meeting some of the world's most eminent neuroscientists and got really interested in science. So he's been one of the lamas very early on that got put in an fMRI scanner, and some of his students are really eminent neuroscientists. So there's been this weaving together of science and meditation. So I think with all of that, including the panic attacks that he had as a boy, which were really dramatically reduced because of meditation, he's had this impulse to really bring the kind of heart of this Tibetan Buddhist tradition to Westerners in a way that was non-sectarian, so that you didn't have to be religious to do the Joy of Living program. So there are these two streams in the Tergar meditation community, which is the community he founded. One is Path of Liberation, which is explicitly Buddhist, but the Joy of Living program is for everybody. And I've had the great pleasure and privilege of teaching that program to Muslims and Jews and Christians and non-religious people. So it's been great to see how people relate to that. But this particular meditation about noticing the silence, the stillness that's present, so that the mind really isn't moving in the same way it does when we have thoughts and emotions, when we're simply noticing our sense experience, and then noticing the movement of the mind with thoughts and emotions, but that awareness surrounds all of that. So it's really awareness itself unifies and is the common denominator of our entire experience. So whether we're aware of the stillness of mind with the senses or the movement of the mind with thoughts and emotions, awareness is always present and it's always bigger than anything else that's going on within it. And that there's this inherent peacefulness to awareness itself. So that experience of movement and stillness being united in awareness with its inherent peacefulness is a really great practice. And I think some of our folks who joined today actually began to tap into that experience. So I was really pleased to see that.
Mm. Yeah, it's fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Cal. This has been very enlightening for folks joining, for me as well. So we're really happy to.
Well, it's always a great pleasure to be here and with you, Suzanne, and to be with everybody who joins. It's the Mind the Moment program is such a great program, and it's just an honor for me always to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. We look forward to the next time. And yeah, so thank you to everyone for joining. And a reminder, we'll be back here on Thursday. Tara Healy will be back. So we look forward to seeing you again in our next time together. Thank you all for joining, and thank you again, Cal.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.